Okay, so it is time to get some irrigation to our grapevines. That's up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to you today. It's actually 4th of July weekend 2020. So here we are today. You can see behind me we have our vineyard garden that we have started, at least the infrastructure for that garden we've begun. So what we're going to be working on today is something that we alluded to when we finished the actual trellising for the grapevines, and that was the fact that we still needed to run a separate line for irrigation and of course get your irrigation installed. So first thing we need to get accomplished is we need to go ahead and get the wire set. So the way we're going to irrigate this is a little bit different from how we irrigated our grapevines last time on the last farm. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to add another wire. So generally speaking, this is usually the traditional way that vineyards would water their grapevines. We will be using a drip irrigation. On the old farm, we actually put the drip irrigation on the ground, and this time we're actually going to suspend it. Now, the reason why we're doing that is twofold. One, we're able to see that the water is working and not have any issues, so it's very, very simple to see. Also easy to work on. And then the second thing would also be keeping it away from our little varmints that like to chew on those little 1/4-inch drip lines. So what we're going to do is actually suspend a 1/2-inch drip line from about 2.5 feet up, so it gets it away from our small bunnies at least, so that they're not chewing on these lines. But what we need to do first, of course, is get our wire pulled right here at about the 2.5 foot line. So Lori and I have some high tensile wire that we have left over from our fencing projects. Hopefully we have enough. I think we should. We're about to find out. And what we're going to do is go ahead and get that strung now at about 2.5 feet. All right, it's the next day. We don't work very late here during the summer. You can see we have this wire set up. So there's about a 6-inch or so gap between the two, which will allow us to run our irrigation here on this line, and then obviously have our cordons or our canes that we can lay down here on the 3-foot line. So now what we need to do is we need to get to the irrigation. When we ran all of our irrigation, I know I ended a joined line that will feed both sets of grapevines, that side and this side. So I know that I'm in here somewhere-ish. So I need to get shovels out, get down to our irrigation line here, and also over on that side, if Lori scans that way, I already know exactly where that one is because we have it stubbed up out of the ground. Lori and I had a chance to get the PVC piping basically done. All we were doing is essentially tapping into the lines that we put in this winter, and now we have them stubbed out over to where we're going to be putting them and running our grapevine irrigation into. We are going to be using this 1/2-inch poly drip line. So this line is actually going to be what's going to come up out of the ground, and it's going to be at that 2.5 or so foot level and run the whole length of each one of the grapevine areas. We'll actually put emitters directly into here, but we're going to be using this. So this is going to be our primary line as far as the irrigation is concerned. And then there's some key fittings that you're going to need if you're going to utilize this from a PVC line. So the first one would be this elbow. So what we have is we have a 1-inch line, which is the main lines that we ran out here. We did that because we wanted to have plenty of water flow for the amount of watering we're going to be doing on these grapevines. So you can see I have a 1-inch line here, and it's an elbow that actually has a reducer here, and this this reduces down to 1/2-inch piping. So that's going to be the first fitting that we're going to fit onto our main PVC here on this side. Once we do that, we're going to take some 1/2-inch PVC, we'll attach it here, so that'll come up out of the ground this way if you can visualize that. And then the next fitting that I need is going to be right here. So what this is this is an adapter, and it's a 1/2-inch slip, that's this side, so that'll slip onto here, we can glue it. And then what you have is you actually have the compression coupling here for the 0.700 line that we're going to be using for our main. So essentially this will attach here, come out of the ground, so we can bring it up to that 2.5 foot level. So that's what we're going to be doing as far as the next couple steps. Now, before we do that, we need to make sure that this line is going to lay out straight on our lines. Curled up like this, it's not going to happen. The great part about being nice and hot, maybe the only advantage right now to it being nice and hot, is we can lay this out on the ground and it'll do a very good job of hopefully flattening it out so we have some straight line to work with. So Lori and I are going to go ahead and take about 200 feet of this, lay it out on the ground, and see if we can get the sun to bake this thing straight. See, I have that in and it's ready to go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use these boxes. By the way, these parts, all the parts and fittings we got from Home Depot, we try to order them and have them shipped to the house whenever we can, but I think a lot of this we did pick up. But one of the things they have there are these little valve boxes, and I like this one because the lid, some of these you have to kind of spin the lid on to lock it, and this one you don't. All you do is just basically press it down. And that's an important one for this because I want to have this black hose coming out of that hole in from this box. That way I can actually take this off if I need to get down to here for some reason, and then it's just a clean look having this coming out of the valve box. So I'll be able to basically just drop the valve box here, slide it into place. It's a basic compression coupling. So all you do is just take the pipe, wiggle it back and forth, and it starts to seat. Again, probably gonna be hard to get on camera, but I like to seat it down nice and tight and then test it, and it's not gonna go anywhere. So it's nice and snug. And what I can do is I can take the pipe at this point and come up to my line. So what we have is we have a few more fittings. We have some elbow fittings. We got enough of those hopefully to go around, but I'll have an elbow here so I can take it along this line. So we're going to go ahead and get this installed, but one other thing. So we're going to be taking this 1/2-inch line and we're going to be attaching it to this wire here. So this 2.5 foot wire. So now there's probably different ways you can attach this. We figured the easiest way to do it would be with some twist ties. So we found this pack of twist ties on Amazon. I'll see if I can track it down again. I'll throw it in our Amazon shop. But basically it's a continuous line of black twist ties, just like you would tie up, I don't know, like your audio visual cabling and things like that. So we're going to utilize this to actually attach the 1/2-inch or the 0.700 diameter pipe to this 2.5 foot wire. you'll just kind of get a shot from inside the garden area here, the vineyard garden, what that line looks like on that 2.5 foot mark. So now there's still probably a couple of spots where we'll add some twist ties. I'll tell you what, those twist ties work fantastic. That little roll that we got from Amazon, it's got a little cutter on there, worked great. So those all went well. Wanted to point out a couple things. We have our archway here that Roger built for us, and what's great about the pergola design and the way he designed it is he had a small arch that he added in here, which worked out fantastic because I didn't have to use elbows. I'd rather not use elbows because it cuts down on the potential flow through this line, and we're already pushing it. We've got about 120, maybe 130 feet. So I didn't want to have too many spots where we're constricting the flow. And it was great that I was only having to use a couple of elbows, and this design helped out a lot. So you can see we have it run along the inside here. I suppose if we really wanted to have a misting system that came on in the middle of the night for no apparent reason, we could. But we do intend on planting at least 1 or 2 grapevines down here to go over the pergola here and completely shade it during the summertime. So we have irrigation here. And then of course, you saw me go down to that end. I want to point out something down at the very end that I'm using for the first time. Here's actually what we're going to use to finish these lines. So again, standard slip fit, but what it has is it has basically just a threaded valve there, so this is going to allow me to flush the lines. That is again why I wasn't too concerned with getting some dust and dirt in here. Once we fire the whole system up, we'll be able to flush that line out, get any dirt that might be accumulated in there. That way when we go back to add our emitters, we're not going to have any issues there. So we'll strap that down once we're done. Okay, so it's mid-morning. I think it's about 10. It's probably pushing 100 degrees. Really hot. We're going to shut it down for today. We've got some other small projects to do. It's the following morning. Lori and I had a chance to go through and get the irrigation installed on this half of the vineyard. So now we've got the ends of both of these runs of the 1/2-inch poly, and we're ready to test the system for the first time. So we have a Wi-Fi enabled controller for our irrigation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this off. You guys are going to see this for the first time, same as we are. See if this is going to work. And let's turn on this zone. Look at that. It looks like this is going to work just fine. So I'm going to test the other one, make sure it's coming out there. We're going to go test for leaks. Let's turn it off. And then I think we'll be ready for the emitters. But nice, good flow out of here. That's good to see. So we had a little bit of a break. We're waiting for these emitters to come in. So what we have here is we have 2 gallon per hour emitters. We purchased these from Drip Depot. We actually had originally ordered them from Home Depot and couldn't seem to get them to get shipped. So Drip Depot had these to us within a week. So we're gonna go ahead and use these. And actually, I like these because they're a lot smaller, little button emitters. They're a lot smaller than the ones I'm typically used to seeing. So as Lori slides in, you'll see they're very, very small. So I like that. It's going to actually be a little bit harder for bunnies and that type of thing to get up to them. And obviously, hopefully they'll still work just fine. So again, 2 gallons per hour. Now, here's what we'll be doing. We'll be essentially spreading them out evenly on these vines, or these spacing for these vines. So I know that I have 6 feet between the 2 posts, give or take a few inches, and we'll be planting the vine right in the middle. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 emitters per section. So we'll come in about 1.5 feet, and so that way we're evenly spaced. So we'll essentially have an emitter at 1.5 feet. 1.5 feet later we'll have the vine. 1.5 feet later we'll have an emitter, and 1.5 feet later will be the end of that section. So we're using one of these little punches. I like these. They're very simple, very inexpensive, to puncture a hole in the 1/2-inch line so that we can insert these emitters directly into this main line. took 88, we got 2 per section and 44 sections. So now, of course, the moment of truth is whether or not this actually works. I'm pretty confident it's going to, because I've done this before, but let's give it a shot. So irrigation, I'm looking at my vineyard zone, and I'm gonna stand back. Let's see how we're doing. There we go. All right, this is a good sign. We've got water dripping everywhere. At least as far as I can tell. Be easy, as dry as the ground is, to verify it. So Laura and I are gonna go through, we're just gonna make sure we don't have any leaks or anything strange. So you can see behind me, we got plenty of water coming down in each one of these sections. Now again, 2 gallons per hour is what each one of these emitters is getting out as far as water. And obviously we'll have a lot of mulch and that type of thing on the ground. But at this point, we're essentially ready to start prepping the soil. That's one of the things we love doing around here. But now that we got the irrigation in, well, that's gonna be the next time around. So just want to thank you for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. Questions or comments, leave those in the comment section down below. Instagram and Facebook, we post content there you won't see here on the YouTube channel. And our Amazon shop, I'll leave a link down in the description. That's a free, painless way to help support the channel. If you start with that link, it doesn't matter what you buy, you help to support us here. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere, so can you. You can let it run. One less edit we got to make. It sounds like an army is taking a pee behind me. In the water? Ooh, that's warm. It actually feels like pee. It's so warm. That is gross. It's just the truth.